Thanks for tuning in to Steel City Football, the 4-1-2. It's a great day to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. Let's jump right in. So is Jalen Ramsey, is he suffering the same type of career that Minkah Fitzpatrick had with the Pittsburgh Steelers? Is Jalen Ramsey struggling because Coach Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers are using him the same way they used Minkah Fitzpatrick? You're here, you're there. You don't have a definite role. You heard all the rumors about Minkah, whether he wanted to be the deep safety towards the line of scrimmage. You heard all these different rumors of the way that why Minkah was struggling. It was because of the way he was being used. People would blame Minkah. People would blame Coach Tomlin. Let's put that to the side for a second. So the Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously, they signed Jalen Ramsey. And Jalen Ramsey is supposed to be a major upgrade compared to Minkah Fitzpatrick because of his man coverage, that he can lock people down, that he could put his hands on people and press coverage, and they're not going to get off the line of scrimmage and do anything. But so far, that hasn't been the case at all. And matter of fact, when you see how many times Jalen Ramsey has been targeted and you see the amount of yardage that he has given up, he's been nothing but a liability for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's been absolutely horrible. Fine, he had the one interception. But let's get into the other stats in the other article. You know, when I was watching the game last week versus the Seahawks, and you seen the first touchdown of the game that was scored on Jalen Ramsey, he was literally 5 to 7 yards away from the receiver. The receiver, it looked like a college game when he scored. And I started to think to myself, did the Pittsburgh Steelers bring in a player who they thought was in his prime and he's aged out and he's just not, he doesn't run the same anymore? I was thinking that. I can't tell. I honestly can't tell if that's the issue. But then when you start comparing Jalen Ramsey and Minkah Fitzpatrick and looking at their careers, and they're pretty much a similar age. I think Jalen Ramsey's a little bit older. I think Minkah's 2 years younger than him. Minkah's 28 years old. It's not like he's an old guy. He's not old by any stretch of the imagination in the NFL. And neither is Jalen Ramsey. So we keep having the same issues. The Pittsburgh Steelers keep having the same issues. Who can we blame it on? The scheme, the coaching staff, Coach Tomlin. It's got to be something. So every time we bring in an elite player and then all of a sudden his production just drops off, what is it? What's the problem here? I mean, he's not 34, 35 years old. I expect Darius Slay to get beat more than Jalen Ramsey, obviously. But I think it's pretty simple. Week in and week out, that Jalen Ramsey should be on the best receiver of the other team. Whether he's impressed, whether you're mixing up the coverage, he's off, he's on. But wherever the best receiver goes, that's where Jalen Ramsey should go. And then everything else in the secondary should kind of fall into place and follow. You saw it in week 1 versus the New York Jets. Garrett Wilson is obviously the number 1 receiver for the New York Jets. And he was absolutely manhandling Darius Slay. And then the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't really change it up to the second half to slow Garrett Wilson down. Don't you think going into the game, you say to yourself, well, Jalen Ramsey's our best cover corner right now. We're going to throw him on Garrett Wilson and go from there. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. And when you start, was Minkah the problem? Was it really Minkah the problem? I know the fans are always throwing Minkah under the bus. They didn't like all the money he was making. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not here to talk about contracts. I don't care. I'm here to talk about production. And we get Jalen Ramsey, an elite corner, and to say that he's struggling right now is an understatement. Doug Whaley criticizes Steelers' use of Jalen Ramsey. I couldn't agree more. When the Pittsburgh Steelers acquired standout defensive back Jalen Ramsey in a shocking trade with the Miami Dolphins on June 30th, the expectation was the Steelers were getting a versatile, experienced defensive back who could move all over and wear a number of hats, giving them schematic flexibility. So far, though, as injuries mount in the secondary, that's simply not been the case with Ramsey. Sure, he's had some great moments in the first 2 weeks, like the final drive against the New York Jets in week 1, sealing the win with a huge hit on Garrett Wilson and the interception in week 2 against the Seattle Seahawks. But those great moments have been few and far between. And in week 2 against Seattle, Ramsey got exposed a bit in coverage. That has former NFL GM Doug Whaley, a current analyst on 93.7 The Fan, a bit frustrated with how the Steelers are deploying Ramsey. You are one of the top cover corners, press cover corners in the era that you played. We're going to put you on the number 1 receiver for the rest of the year. Whaley said of what the Steelers should do with Ramsey, according to audio via the 93.7 The Fan on YouTube. Joey Porter Jr., you be a student of him and you learn how to be that number 1 lockdown corner. So guess what that does? Gives you a lockdown corner, and now it gives you one in waiting. And then you could do your rest of your defense off of that. They're not doing that. Let's move them here, there. That's that coaching like, oh, I'm going to outsmart them and it's backfiring. So just line up and play. You have these dogs that you believe are dogs. Put them in position just to do what they do and stop making it about your defense. Stop trying to be right and get it right. It wasn't just Cooper Kupp the Steelers and Ramsey had issues with either. Jackson Smith-Njigba had a monster day and one of the biggest plays of the game against Ramsey late in the fourth quarter, calling his own shot. On the season, Ramsey has been charged with allowing 10 receptions on 13 targets for 134 yards and 1 touchdown. Though he does have 1 interception and 3 pass breakups, Ramsey has had some issues in coverage, especially in week 2. In the loss to the Seahawks, Ramsey allowed 9 receptions on 11 targets for 128 yards. The 43-yarder to Smith-Njigba was the backbreaker as he burned Ramsey on a post route, making the play to all but clinch the win. The first touchdown of the game, I'm pretty sure against the Seahawks, he got beat on the same play in the end zone for a touchdown. After galvanizing the defense in week 1 on the road, Ramsey struggled in week 2 and was targeted time and time again. Injuries in the secondary are hindering the Steelers, putting more of a workload on Ramsey's plate. Ramsey struggled to cover in the middle of the field, and communication wasn't great on the touchdown he allowed, which came on the same Yankee concept the Jets beat the Steelers on for a touchdown in week 1. You tell me, is it the scheme or Jalen Ramsey's ability? I don't know. But I know one thing. Jalen Ramsey is considered the number 1 cover corner on the Pittsburgh Steelers. Doug Whaley said it perfectly. It's not about your defense. Like, oh, it's my way. Look at me. This is right. It's about doing what works. It's about doing what's smart. And what's smart is this. If Jalen Ramsey is number 1 on the depth chart, as in who's the best cover corner, regardless of how he's playing, if that's the guy number 1 on your depth chart, then that's the defensive back that should be covering the best receiver anytime you play another team. You know, this shouldn't be complicated. If Jalen Ramsey is your number 1 cover corner, and that's the number 1 guy on your depth chart, regardless of how he's playing, if that's the best that the Pittsburgh Steelers have, then week in and week out, he should be on the best receiver from the other team. It's not about Coach Tomlin wanting to be right or his defense. Let's do and stick to what works. And that's why I said that in the beginning of this video. Is Jalen Ramsey a victim of Coach Tomlin's defense like Minka Fitzpatrick? I'm really starting to think it's not the players. But you decide. Let me know what you think in the comments. I want to hear what you got to say. This kind of took me by surprise. Dale Lally dead at 56. Rest in peace. I'm sorry to his family. I love tuning in to The Drive to watch the show. I was wondering where he's been. You know, I hate to hear this. He had mouth cancer. Man, it's terrible. But I'm sorry. I'm really surprised. I'm shocked by this. When you saw him on air, he looked very healthy. You would never thought in a million years he was going through that. You know, I was wondering where he's been. I'm sorry to hear this. Derreck Harmon returned to practice today for the first time since his knee injury. That's good news because we really need him on the field. I'm super high on Derreck Harmon. Nonstop motor, mean and nasty, can shoot gaps, can run. He's fast, can rush the passer. I think Steeler fans are going to love what they see when Derreck Harmon finally gets on the field. First-round rookie defensive tackle Derreck Harmon has returned to practice for the first time since suffering a preseason knee injury, according to video from ESPN's Brooke Pryor on X. Steelers rookie Derreck Harmon wearing a hefty knee brace on his right leg. Practiced for the first time since MCL sprain in the preseason final, Pryor wrote. I mean, during the preseason game, when you saw it, I thought it was bad. I thought he tore his ACL. I'm so happy that he's back. It's a good sign. Today's players, they have to practice with music on. You know, they have to be motivated through music and all this other garbage instead of being intense and focusing on their job and playing because they love the game. You know, today's players, look, I don't want to sound like the old guy, get off my lawn, but they just annoy me in the worst kinds of way. You know, it's like everything has to be comfortable to some degree for today's NFL players. And you wonder why most of the teams stink up the field. We went from having two-a-days to the most seasoned football, the greatest football that you ever saw, to the players only wanted to practice for 2 hours during the summertime. And you wonder why you see sloppy, undisciplined, garbage football for most of the games. And that's what you're seeing. Isaiah Loudermilk was just placed on injured reserve for the year. Derreck Harmon said he's ready to go and my number is called. Derreck Harmon optimistic about return from injury. Derreck Harmon is questionable this week versus the Patriots. I've been in every meeting, been to every walkthrough, every practice, Harmon said via the 93.7 The Fan on X. I think once Derreck Harmon gets in his groove, I think a lot of Steelers fans are going to be very happy with this pick. Look, as negative as I am, I really like the picks this year. If I had to start over and had to start with a new group of guys, even if it didn't work out, Will Howard, Jack Sawyer, Y.A. Black, Derreck Harmon. I really like this nucleus. I really like what I see. If I had to go into battle with a group of guys to try to straighten out the Pittsburgh Steelers organization and get the black and gold running like the fearless battleship that it should be, these group of men that the Pittsburgh Steelers have chosen, I couldn't have chosen better men myself. So this group of men does give me confidence going into the future. The thing that I like about all of them, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Steelers fan, they're all likable guys. None of them are going to be on the nonsense. They're all very likable human beings off the field and on the field, and it just makes the world a difference because even if they don't succeed, I want them all to succeed. Don't get me wrong. But even if things didn't pan out, it's not because of an attitude issue or just being a complete effing idiot. It just didn't work out. So I really hope it works out for all of these guys. I really like Will Howard too. The Pittsburgh Steelers really need to consider bringing in John Gruden to get the offense rolling once again. I'm a big, huge believer in John Chucky Gruden. And if Coach Tomlin was ever to get fired, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should give John Gruden a chance. Or even, you're not going to like this, or Nick Saban. We need discipline and we need execution. A lot of people will say that Nick Saban's style won't work in the NFL. I don't believe that. I think Nick Saban's style will work perfectly in Pittsburgh for the type of players that Pittsburgh drafts. Attention to detail, focused, disciplined. I don't think right now that it's the players that aren't playing disciplined. I don't believe that. I think the coaching staff is failing the players. I don't think it's the other way around at all. I would really like to see John Gruden or Nick Saban come and coach the Pittsburgh Steelers if Coach Tomlin gets fired. This is a really concerning stat. The Pittsburgh Steelers are number one in the NFL for allowing touchdowns on the first drive with 5. Oh, man. Allowing points on 5 straight opening possessions is the NFL's longest and worst streak in the league. Here's the leaderboard. Pittsburgh Steelers, Carolina Panthers, Tennessee. Man, the Panthers are bad. So to think that the Steelers are above them, number one, in allowing points in the opening possession. That's terrible. What a bad stat for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And for the longest time, not only did we lead it on defense, we led it in offense. We could not get any points on the first drive. So you got the offense stalling, and then you got the defense letting up points on the first drive. It's just a recipe for disaster. Do you really think our players are that bad? Is it the players? I guess this is the moral of my video today. Do you really think our players are that terrible? You tell me. I don't know. If Bill Belichick wasn't, having his 18-year-old girlfriend on the sidelines with him at North Carolina, Bill Belichick, his whole entire career, his image, his greatness to me has been totally destroyed because the no-nonsense guy is letting his 18-year-old money grabber girlfriend on the sidelines during North Carolina games. It's like Bill Belichick totally destroyed his image in my mind. He just looks absolutely. I really feel bad for Bill Belichick. I don't know if he's doing that because he thinks he lost his job because he's not cool and young and hip anymore. So let me get this 19-year-old girlfriend and put her on the sidelines and maybe I'll get an NFL job again. If Bill Belichick agreed with Art Rooney, like, hey, I won't have my girlfriend anywhere near the facility, maybe we should give him a try too if Coach Tomlin gets fired. I know Pittsburgh Steelers fans don't want to hear it, but my top three, if Coach Tomlin gets fired, John Gruden, Nick Saban, and I'll put Bill Belichick last, and you probably don't like that, but I'm here to win. I want to win. And if that meant Ronald McDonald had to coach the team to win Super Bowls, I'm all in. But again, that's if Coach Tomlin ever gets fired. We'll see how the season goes. All this talk about TJ Watt losing a step, all you content creators really piss me off that supposedly are Steelers fans and follow the Steelers. And when I look at your content, it's just complete garbage. Oh, TJ Watt lost his leg. TJ Watt lost a step. Really? So why do NFL teams send 2 or 3 guys to block TJ Watt if he's washed up? Oh, yeah. That's what NFL teams usually do to washed up players. They send 2 to 3 offensive linemen to go block a player. And then they intentionally don't run at TJ Watt because they know the run's going to get shut down. Yeah, sounds like a real washed up player. Some of you YouTubers that cover the Steelers, you're washed up. And your channel sucks and you just need to close it down because you're a complete idiot making up lies about TJ Watt because you want views and screen time. You sound like complete idiots and morons. If you actually did some research, you would know that's the furthest thing from the truth. Offenses are absolutely terrified of running at TJ Watt or giving him teams get the ball. Quarterbacks get the ball out of their hands so faster against the Steelers than any other team, because they know TJ Watt's coming around the corner. So all your it's just complete garbage. Oh yeah, guys, we got a game plan for this washed up outside linebacker named TJ Watt who can't play anymore. And we're going to do that by sending 2 or 3 guys to block him. Yeah, that makes sense, right? The washed up player. We need 3 guys to block that guy. You just sound so dumb. I got to insult you because you sound like total idiots.